This practice invites you to be in your body in a very gentle and non-judgmental way. Sounds easy. So most of the movement that we'll be doing is very slow, perhaps quite small, and invites you to really, really feel, to really slow down, to do less. And the benefits can be quite far-reaching, so this kind of practice can be very soothing to your nervous system, which can really help with such things as worry and fear and anxiety and grief. This practice can be calming, healing, and really supportive, so it can be a resource. So I invite you to use this practice in any way that you feel is helpful for you. I hope you find it useful. Let's begin by lying down on our backs. You may like to have a little bit of space around you, and you might like to have a nice blanket underneath you and some layers on top of your body, maybe even a blanket on top. This whole practice can be done under a blanket. You might get a little tangled up in it, but that's okay. And then perhaps you might just like to bend your knees and place the soles of your feet on the floor and allow for your spine to find a nice, easy placement and alignment. And taking a moment to settle yourself into this shape that you've chosen to be in. Allowing the back of your body to make full connection with the surface beneath you. For your exhalation to encourage yourself to soften and let go of tension or gripping in any part of your body that you can. And then let's spend a few moments with each of our three great wisdom centers: head, heart, and belly. So you might like to take your hands and just place them up on the top of your head, and just lightly placing your hands on the top of your head. And then slowly running your hands down the side of your head and along your jawline and off your chin. Combing with your hands and your fingers from the top of your head down the sides of your head, maybe your face as well, and off your chin. And let's just keep doing this a few more times. You might find other ways to comb. Maybe you come across your face. Maybe you move more towards the back of your head. Letting this touch be very, very gentle, very light and soft and soothing. Maybe you bring your hands over your eyes and down across your cheeks. Maybe you find some other movements and ways of combing and stroking and soothing that feel comforting for you. Perhaps imagining as though you were tending to someone that you care for very, very deeply. Gently combing and caring for their head and face. And sending that same sense of love and care to yourself. You might like to cup the palms of your hands over your eyes and then let your arms relax. Your breath to flow. And your eyes to rest. And then moving down to the wisdom center of your heart. So maybe it might be that you place your hands on your chest or on your heart And just allow the weight of your hands to rest there. You might feel the warmth or coolness of your hands. Maybe you feel your chest rising and falling under your hands as you breathe. Maybe you even take a gentle, very, very soft little press of your hand or hands into your chest as you breathe out. Perhaps you might sense the back of your heart pressing a little closer to the floor underneath the very soft weight of your hands. And you might find this helpful. Maybe you continue with this, or perhaps you might like to move toward a full heart hug. Maybe you wrap your arms around your chest and perhaps hold your shoulders or let your arms drape. And you might just settle into a place of ease and a little bit of a self-hug. And as you're here, is there anything that your heart center, your emotional center needs for you to see right now? And maybe there is, and maybe there isn't. Maybe it's clear, maybe it's not. But just noticing, maybe there's something here that is ready to be seen or heard. And then when you're ready to release your heart center, you might like to bring your hands down to your belly. And anywhere down around the lower part of your ribs or down towards your pelvis. And maybe you might begin to just stroke from the base of your sternum down towards the lower part of your pelvis, perhaps softly stroking your belly and the lower part of your abdomen. And maybe the stroking sensation feels soothing, and perhaps you might stay with that. Or maybe your hands might come to rest at some place on your lower abdomen that feels like just the right spot for you. And it might be that there are lots of spots, so you might be moving your hands around. And maybe there's a bit of movement here as you breathe. Or maybe you might encourage just a gentle bit of movement as you breathe. Maybe as you breathe in, your tummy might swell a little bit, and as you breathe out, you might feel your belly hollow and drop away towards the floor. And is there anything sitting with you in your belly today, in this place of wisdom and knowing, that wants to be heard or seen? And it's not necessary to have anything, and it's not necessary to know what it is, but just perhaps asking the question, not necessarily needing an answer. What needs to be seen? What is ready to be heard? And then you're welcome to keep your hands down on the lower part of your belly if you find that helpful, or you might take them off and rest them on the floor. And then let's just check our knees. So you might like to take your knees just a tiny little bit apart, so the soles of your feet are really connected to the floor. And then we can begin a very, very soft and gentle and so small rocking of your pelvis. And it might almost be so small that it's barely visible. So it might be that you gently tuck your tail and your lower back presses a little bit closer to the floor. And then you might roll back down the length of your sacrum so that your tailbone presses a little closer to the floor, and perhaps the curve behind your lower spine increases. And this movement can be as small as you choose, as slow and soft as you like. And if it feels helpful to make the movement a little larger, you're welcome to do that as well. But can you resist that temptation to move toward a very active doing way of working? So can you still keep the muscles of your legs and your buttocks pretty relaxed? So there's very, very little effort involved in this practice, in this movement. And maybe it might be that your head is also moving. So perhaps as you arch and dome your spine very softly and subtly, you might find that your chin lifts and lowers. It may or may not. There's no wrong way to practice. Continuing to stay as present as you can, as present as is okay for you, to whatever might be arising and moving within you as you practice. You could perhaps imagine this like you're pouring your attention down into your body. Often we have a lot of sort of surface chatter. It's like if you think about a lake and it begins to rain, and on the surface of the lake, as the raindrops hit the surface of the lake, there's a lot of movement, a lot of chatter, a lot of splattering and sploshing, little ripples and rises and falls of water. But deep in the ocean, it is still, deep in the lake, it is still and calm. And our mind can be a little bit like the raindrops pitter-pattering on the surface of our lake. But what lies beneath? When you're ready, you might like to find your way back to stillness if you're not already there. You're welcome to keep your hands on your belly if that feels helpful, or you might take them out and place them on the floor. And then allowing a little moment of stillness, a little opportunity to settle. Can you notice your face, the features of your face? And is there any tension? Is there any gripping? Does it feel helpful to soften the features of your face? Maybe to let your teeth come apart a little bit at the back so that the hinge of your jaw can release. And then can you notice the back of your head as it rests on the floor? And maybe you might begin with the very slowest movement to start to roll your head over to one side. And maybe this movement is quite smooth, or maybe there's little jerks and twitches that are happening as you move your body. Again, there's absolutely no way that you can do this wrong. And take as long as it takes to roll to one side, and then when you're ready you can begin your long, slow, gentle journey back again to center and over to your other side. keep noticing any sensations that you might feel, anything that might arise for you as you're practicing. Maybe you notice some of those little noisy surface thoughts visiting, popping in and out. And maybe you notice some feelings moving through, some emotion. Keep practicing whatever it is that is interesting for you. So if you do notice that your mind gets captured by one of those surface thoughts, just gently guide yourself back. Perhaps you might choose to drop down again and back into your body and back into the deep waters of your felt experience. Always coming back to your body. Perhaps it's your breath. Perhaps sensation. Perhaps something else that you notice about your experience in this moment. Gradually finding your way back to center, letting it take as long as it takes to arrive. And then checking in with your legs again, you might like to just step your feet somewhere around parallel, so there's a space between your feet and between your knees. You might feel the sensation of your feet on the floor, of the back of your pelvis, other parts of your spine and the back of your torso. Anywhere else that you notice a connection between yourself and the surface beneath you. And then very slowly you might begin to let one of your knees drop out towards your side. Letting your leg tip and pour itself out towards your side. And then slowly you might begin to let your leg slide along the floor until your leg is extended all the way out and resting on the floor. And then when you're ready, you might begin to draw your knee back out to your side again, sliding your foot along the floor and bringing your knee up towards the ceiling so that your foot lands back down on the floor again. And then repeating, letting your knee drop out towards your side, slowly, gently tipping and sliding along the floor until your leg extends all the way and rests for a moment in heaviness. And maybe you stay here for a while, or perhaps you begin to slide your knee back out again and reverse the pathway until your foot finds its way back to the floor again. And let's practice this a few more times on this side. Slowly letting your knee tip and your leg extend. letting this practice take its own time, welcoming yourself back into your body every time you notice the movement might have become a little bit robotic or unconscious in any way. Never judging yourself. If you find yourself wandering or distracted, this is very normal. Just continuing to come back to your body and back to your practice. And when you're ready, finishing off this one, finding your way back to center again, both of your feet on the floor, and knees can point up towards the ceiling. And taking a moment just to rest and settle. Noticing if there's any part of your body that feels as though it needs to adjust for comfort. Maybe feeling your breath for a moment or two. And then when you're ready, you can begin the practice on your other side, letting your knee tip out towards your side, perhaps really slowly, perhaps a little faster, and your leg might slide down along the floor until it extends long and rests in heaviness for a moment. And you might find that that resting is what feels most nourishing, and maybe you stay there. Or perhaps you begin to reverse the pathway by drawing your knee out to your side, sliding your foot along the floor, and arriving back where you began. And in your own time, with whatever interests you, you can continue practicing on this side. And you might find that there are other discoveries that you make along the way, and maybe you allow those into your practice. Perhaps this leg requires a slightly different set of circumstances or a slightly different approach to the movement. Feel free to let that happen if it feels helpful for you. And if you notice other parts of your body becoming tense or trying to control or direct the movement of your leg, just notice. Is that helpful? Could it be some other way? Is there another possibility? Always curiosity. Curiously inquiring into your practice. And gradually making your way back again, taking time to arrive so that both of your feet are on the floor. Perhaps you wriggle your toes and feel the texture of the surface beneath. Feeling the weight of your pelvis dropping down to the floor. Shoulders, arms and head nice and heavy and released. And perhaps you land your attention on your breath and feel the flow of your breath rising and falling within you. And then you might begin to float one of your knees in towards your chest, and you could place your hand on your kneecap. And then your other knee could come in as well, and placing your hand on your kneecap. So you'll find yourself in a little curled up ball lying on your back. And you might begin to perhaps pull down on one knee, which might rock you to slightly to one side, and then you might pull down on your other knee, which might rock you slightly to your other side. And can you allow the momentum of this rocking to have its own rhythm, and to allow yourself to play with the rhythmicity and flow of rocking from side to side. Allowing your legs to settle into whatever shape feels easiest to be in. And maybe your head is moving as well, maybe not. And maybe there are moments where you pause on the edge, almost falling over, and maybe you do roll all the way over onto your side. And if you do, perhaps you pause and rest there for a moment, letting your body just be at ease. And if you have rolled all the way to your side, what would be the easiest, least effort-filled way to come back onto your back again? Maybe it's to draw your top knee up first, and maybe that rolls you back, or maybe it's your shoulder or your head that moves first. And then continuing this practice, side to side, feeling how your weight pours more into one side of your body, and then into the other side of your body. And maybe it causes you to tip all the way to your side, or maybe you stay mostly on your back. Or maybe you're curiously playing with all the different options available to you as you move from side lying to rolling on your back. You might find that your hands stay on your legs, or maybe they come off, and perhaps your hands and arms create their own pathways. There's no way that you can get this wrong. So feel free to allow whatever feels like it calls you. Whatever curiosity or soothing, nourishing, easeful way of moving is available to you now. Even if it looks completely different. It's your practice, and it's your body, and you get to choose how to be and how to move. Resting is always an option. You might choose just to rest, and maybe to feel your breath or to notice the sensations in your body. Or perhaps to observe yourself as you're practicing, noticing the moments when you feel present and in your body, and maybe the times when you feel somewhere else. And these are all very normal and expected parts of your practice. You're truly welcome to stay with this practice for as long as you choose, if it feels as though it still has more for you. Or perhaps the next time you roll to your side, or you could roll to your side, you might pause and rest and settle there on your side. Does it feel good to give yourself a self-hug, maybe tucking your top arm in underneath and wrapping your hands around yourself? Maybe a little hug feels nice or nourishing, and if that does, feel free to do that. Perhaps a little bit of rocking. Rocking can often be quite soothing to our nervous systems. And you might choose to stay here resting, or perhaps you begin to take your arms out at shoulder height and just rest your palms one on top of the other. And maybe you begin to slide your top hand forward so that you can feel the floor or surface underneath your fingers. And then as you slide your hand back, you might feel your own palm, and you might continue to slide your hand along your forearm, on the inside of your elbow and up to your shoulder. And maybe you pause there and then return back again. Or maybe you continue to slide your hand across your collarbones and over to your other shoulder. Perhaps your shoulder drops down towards the floor. And maybe your arm opens all the way out and you might find yourself in a twist shape. Your knees might be together, they might be apart. Your head can be turned in whatever direction it feels most natural. And maybe you pause here for some time, or maybe you begin to reverse the pathway by bending your elbow and finding your shoulder with your fingers sliding across your collarbones and down the inside of your arm until you're resting again on your side, palm to palm. Perhaps you even slide your fingers forward off your lower hand. And then you're welcome to continue with this practice in whatever way feels most useful to you in this moment. Maybe you're rolling all the way from side lying to twist and back again. Or maybe you're rolling part of the way. Or perhaps you're choosing stillness as your option and resting on your side or in your twist shape or in some other shape of your choice. Again, noticing, what do you feel? What does it feel like in your body as you practice what you're choosing to practice? What else do you notice? If at any time your practice feels overwhelming or it doesn't feel manageable for you, you can always come to noticing what might be happening outside of your body. So maybe you open your eyes and see the room that you're in and notice something about it. Or maybe you listen with your ears. Perhaps there are smells. And all of these things, all of this information that you receive through your senses is present moment practice. So whether you're noticing what's happening in your body or in the environment around you through your senses, it's still body-based present moment practice. And you might choose to stay on this side, or stay with what you're practicing. Or maybe you feel drawn to moving towards your other side. And if that's the case, you might find your own way of rolling over. Whatever feels easy for you, whatever feels helpful. And you might find your way over to your other side, and perhaps you might return back to a self-hug or maybe a gentle stroking of your top arm with your lower arm, perhaps from shoulder to elbow. Letting the weight of your body really settle and arrive down into the floor. And then maybe you're bringing the palms of your hands together out at around about shoulder height. Perhaps sliding your top hand forward, fingers to the floor somewhere, and then you might start to slide back again, perhaps noticing the texture and temperature of your own skin or the clothing against your skin. You might slide all the way up to your shoulder and back down again, or maybe you slide across to your other shoulder and perhaps opening all the way out into a twist, if that feels like a useful choice for you. You might stay there, you might adjust or wriggle or change your positioning, or maybe you reverse the pathway by beginning to slide your hand back across and down your arm until you end up somewhere similar to where you began. And again, you might rest there, or perhaps you find that the rhythmical, continual movement is the practice that feels helpful for you today. And taking time to inquire into what feels the most nourishing or the most helpful or the most okay for you. What do you notice? Do you notice your head rolling on the floor? Maybe you notice how your weight pours from one part of your head to another part of your head. Maybe you notice some other parts of your body. Perhaps there's even some sensations of stretch. Maybe the sensations you notice have movement to them, or texture, or temperature. Allowing yourself that sense of curiosity as you kindly and compassionately witness your practice. Trusting that there's no way that you can do it wrong, that all the choices you're making are exactly as they are meant to be, just now. And taking a few more moments with whatever might feel as though it's helping you in this moment, with whatever shape or movement you might be practicing. And gradually making your way again back to resting, perhaps on your side or perhaps on your back. Allowing yourself to settle into a shape that feels pretty at ease and pretty okay. Maybe it feels helpful to bring in some support under your head or to place a blanket on your body. And maybe you might just rest with your breath for a moment. Noticing how you feel. Knowing that there's always more to come. There's always more growth, there's always more challenge, there's always more life, more discovery. But letting this be enough for today. Letting this be enough. Perhaps you might begin to open your eyes if they're not already opened, and with soft eyes you might just start to look around. And then you might use your hands to help you come up from here. Maybe taking a little moment with yourself before you move on to your day. In this final moment of your practice, perhaps you might like to cast a wish. Perhaps you have a vision for your life. Perhaps a life of wellness, love, joy, ease. Perhaps your wish is for challenge and stimulation and creativity. Perhaps there is some other wish that you have for your life. Taking a moment to allow yourself to really feel that. What is that wish? How does it feel? Maybe you see it as an image in your mind. Perhaps it comes as words. Letting yourself fill up with this feeling of hope or whatever else it might be. And then perhaps you might let that dissolve. And may it be so. Thank you for your time and your practice.